friends, it's Teresa and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about 10 books I want to read before I inevitably kick the bucket. So like I said, I have 10 books that I want to start reading before I eventually pass away in the next 20 or so years. If any of these books you have read and you want to recommend to me to read right away or sooner, let me know in the comments down below. But until then, let's kind of get into the video. But if you like this kind of content for me, hit like, subscribe, and comment. The usual fun stuff. And until next time, let's hop in. So starting off strong here, we have Noli Me Tangere by Jose Rizal. I actually just bought this book. So actually, I might be trying to read this book soon, in the nearest future. This is known as the great novel of the Philippines. It's a story about passionate love set against the ugly political backdrop of repression, torture, and murder. It's the first major artistic manifestation of Asian resistance in Europe and is widely known as the novel that started the Philippine Revolution against the Spanish. It's just an important piece of Filipino history. I know a lot of my Filipino friends have read this book and I need to be part on that train. I think it's an important piece of history for me to read and to learn about. So I want to read this book as soon as possible. This book I know is very important and I'm really excited to read it and see what it's about. The next one is Babaylan, the Filipinos in the Call of the Indigenous by Leni Mendoza Strobel and Perla Day, who is the illustrator. This is just a historical kind of, or a non-fiction piece talking about the history of the Philippines, the cultural aspects of the Babaylan, which was, I think, the spiritual leader of the different villages at the time. I think it's just an important piece of Filipino culture to read. I have another book that I have on here that's Ancient Way of the Healer, which is another Filipino, indigenous Filipino book that I really want to read and get into. So lots of Filipino books in this one, which makes sense considering I am in fact Filipino. I know. Hard. It's a surprise. Not like I haven't mentioned it in previous videos if you are not new to this channel. The next one is Parable of the Sower by Octavia Butler. Octavia E. Butler, my bad. So this is set in 2024, following Lauren Olamina and her family, who live in one of the safe neighborhoods in the outskirts of LA. Behind the walls of their defendant enclave, Lauren's father, a preacher, and a handful of other citizens try to salvage what remains of the culture that has been destroyed by drugs, disease, war, and chronic water shortages. While her father tries to lead people on the righteous path, Lauren struggles with hyperempathy, a condition that makes her extraordinarily sensitive to the pain of others. When fire destroys her compound, Lauren's family is killed and she is forced out into a world that is fraught with danger. With a handful of other refugees, Lauren must make her way north to safety, along with the conceiving a revolutionary idea that may mean salvation for all mankind. This is science fiction dystopian, and I always hear it every single time I hear about Octavia E. Butler. It's just one of her books that everyone seems to recommend. So I want to pick this up and read it. It's, again, dystopian, so very important read. I think dystopia is a very important genre in general. When done right, I'm going to put that out there. I don't think nowadays there are dystopians that are done correctly in any shape of the form. So when it is done correctly, I think it is a wonderful genre to learn and read from. But again, another piece of fiction that's really important. And I really want to read it and see what future Octavia E. Butler had described and created and how different it is from the future of today. Moving on to Hunchback of Notre Dame by Victor Hugo. Everyone kind of knows this one. It follows the Hunchback of Notre Dame. This is the Gothic novel set in, I think, the 1800s of France, set in the backdrop of the Notre Dame. It's in the title, Therese. I have been super interested in reading this book. I know it's kind of a bit of a doozy. I believe it's a thicker novel, but it's just something that I've been really interested in reading. It's a Gothic novel, historical fiction, and I really enjoyed the movie, which I know is vastly different from the novel, but I'm interested to see the differences between the musical from Disney, which is still very dark in its own right, and then the actual novel that was created by the author back in the day, and see the differences between those two. The next one is The Three Musketeers by Alexandre Dumas. This is another historical fiction, or I guess not historical fiction, but classical piece following D'Artagnan, who wants to become a musketeer and ends up losing his father and goes on a revenge plot to kind of avenge his dead father and ends up joining the Three Musketeers of France. I have this book already. It's a thick book, but I'm really interested just because I love all the iterations of the Three Musketeers. I love all of those things, and I'm really intrigued to see what will happen in the original work and see how close, or not close at all, it is to the BBC Musketeers I love so dearly. I also think that this is also considered like the swashbuckling genre, whatever that may mean to you. So interested to see how those like sword fights are going to play out back in from more, I suppose, realistic descriptions of swashbuckling and sword fighting and all that fun stuff. It's so weird. I'm just trying to handle this new camera, and it's, I don't know. I'm usually used to looking up above where the camera thing is, but on the left now, so I'm just trying to like stay focused on the camera itself, and it's very, very difficult. The next one is the Odyssey, which chronicles Odysseus's odyssey throughout most of Greece. I'm not gonna lie, the only reason I'm reading this is because I am a big Greek myth girly, and I just want to have it done for bragging rights only, and that is the only reason that I want to read this book. Purely for bragging rights at this point in my life. I don't have much of an interest in reading this because I feel like it's an important piece of media, or that it's great and clear and the top tier of anything. I just want to brag the fact that I read the Odyssey. It's like Dante's Inferno. I just want to brag that I read Dante's Inferno and nothing else, you know? That's it. That's the only reason why I want to read that book. No great, amazing reasoning here, just that. The next one is Marcos Martial Law Never Again by Raisa Robles and Alan Robles, who was the editor. This is going over the martial law of 1972 in September in the Philippines, and what happened, what occurred, why it happened, how we should really strive for this to never happen again in the history of the Philippines. Again, another piece of important fiction another piece of important literature that I really have been wanting to read. It's been on my TBR since I read about it. Since my friend had mentioned she read it back in the day when I first started BookTube, like in 2017. So really excited to read this one and see exactly what happened, because I know my parents have lived through the martial law, but I don't really know too many specifics about it. So I'm hoping this will kind of give me all the information I need and want regarding what actually happened and what all went down. The next one is Phantom of the Opera by Gaston Leroux. This is following, well, who doesn't know what Phantom of the Opera is about now, about in this time frame of the world. It's following a haunted opera house where a young man lives beneath the like basement levels of this opera house because he's too ugly to come out into society. So he wears a mask, and he ends up falling for a singer, if I'm remembering the story correctly, and things ensue. Things ensue because she does not love him, but he loves her, and it's just a whole creepy, deepy thing. It's a gothic novel. Again, lots of gothic novels on this, or at least a handful of gothic novels on this list. I think I'm a huge gothic literature person. I'm learning. I love the genre. And I have had this book on my TBR for such a long time. My sister has read it, I believe, and she really enjoyed it. So if she enjoyed it, I'm going to enjoy it, I hope. But it's just, I am excited to read this one specifically because it is an amazing play. It's an amazing musical, and I just want to see the origins of this musical and see how good or not good the book is. The next one is Dr. Faustus by Christopher Marlowe. This is an adult, I think I want to say a horror, gothic horror. I don't know exactly what the genre is. I can't recall off the top of my head, but it is the basis of a Faustian deal. If you don't know what that means, it's kind of like a deal where you're not, how do I describe a Faustian deal? Editing, Therese, can you throw up the definition of a Faustian deal on here? Because I don't feel like looking it up, quite frankly. No, we'll look it up. We will. It's a pact between a person and the devil or another demon. It is typically trading of the soul. Or here we go. A pact whereby a person trades something of supreme moral or spiritual importance, such as values or the soul, for some worldly object. And this is what Dr. Faustus does. I was meant to read this back in college, but none of our books arrived in time for me to read it. I wanted to read this so badly just because I really enjoyed the Tom and Jerry Dr. Faustus mention back in the day. I thought that was a really creepy episode, or a creepy like skit, and I really wanted to read more about the origins of it, and also because bragging rights. I just want to brag that I've read Dr. Faustus and feel like I am on some higher plane of literature because I have read this piece of literature that may or may not be great, but we consider classic literature for a reason. I know, it's not It's not an amazing reason to want to read it, but honestly, if I have 10 books I'm going to pick before I die, I kind of want bragging rights to come from this book, so. And the last book on this list is Giovanni's Dream by James Baldwin. This is what is in classic literature canonically known as one of the first bisexual books out there, or books with a bisexual character, I should say, more specifically. This is known as one of the first books with a bisexual character in the novel, so it's been on my list for quite some time now. I don't really know too much about the book. I just know that this is about a bisexual character and the struggles between a man and a woman, and that's all I need to know. That's all I need to know. I am super stoked to read this book whenever I get a chance to. I've heard really good things about James Baldwin as an author. I want to say I've read some of his work already from college, but it's been so long. It's been almost 10 years since I started college that it'll be 10 years in... Ooh. No, it has been 10 years. It's been 10 years since I started college, so I do not recall if I read any James Baldwin. But I know he's a great and amazing author, and I've heard amazing things about his works. So I'm really excited to have this one be my first official one that I've read of his that I can remember vividly. But that is it for all the books I want to read before I die, or at least 10 books I want to read before I die. If you want me to read more books before I, inevitably kick the bucket in 20 years, let me know in the comments down below. If you want me to add more books and show off more books I want to read before I pass away, let me know as well. But until next time, hit like, subscribe, and comment, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Until then, stay safe. Bye.